There's not a fucking chance in hell he's clean.
No.
Not a chance in hell. As big as The Rock is, at 50.
So I definitely recommend don't even begin to touch it.
Most celebrities and influencers warn us to steer clear of steroids, and yet they create success and fame from secretly using them, promoting their workouts and their diets. It's all so confidential. It's time to come out of the dark and see the methods that all the top people are implementing. They can't tell you how to do it for obvious reasons, but today I can. Now, before anyone starts jabbing themselves with needles, we need to be woke and know what the hell to do with this stuff.
You have to do a lot of research and be smart enough to think for yourself.
These guys in the media, secretly juiced to the gills, do have a team of specialists guiding them through it, which massively cuts out the stress and guesswork on the way to their superhero physique. Even though these guys look good for a role,
So we started on testosterone, and it was like, oh my god, like a new me.
they don't jump on it for 8 or 12 weeks and come off. So let's zoom out and show you what that would look like. Start off with a cycle and slowly titrate the doses up. They would run the cycle until the results have slowed down or the blood work gets worse, then drop into a TRT, health and recovery phase. Once the blood work is looking good, they would return back to a cycle. Then they could either do another health and recovery TRT phase or drop down into PCT. But realize most of these guys are never doing PCT and are always staying on something. But there's nothing wrong with that if you're getting monthly blood work and you know what you're doing. It provides essential direction for anyone considering a safe cycle. However, the biomarkers must be specific for someone picking up the Hulk juice. It's not just a general health check from your local doctor. Every month on cycle, you potentially need different biomarkers checked depending on the drugs you're on. And when you're stacking more compounds, it does get a little bit more tricky. If we don't look under the hood of the Ferrari, how are we going to know what parts to fine tune? In other words, it acts as a visual tool. Before you stack new compounds or increase any dosages, we can look at the data and make an educated assessment of the next steps in the cycle. This allows us to steer clear of all the common pitfalls. The easiest and best way to have these biomarkers checked is through a private company. They'll visit you at your home, come with all the equipment, draw the blood and do everything at lightning speed. And then you get your results in a couple of days, you know exactly where you stand with your health. A 16-week cookie cutter plan has been nicely laid out. At week 8, it's scheduled to increase the dose of the testosterone and nandrolone. At this point, blindly following the plan is going to create some serious problems. A superior move, on the other hand, look at the data and then interpret what dose and compound to select. Forget the idea to add the test and the nandrolone, because now we can see that there's better options. One of many might be deploying mastron propionate and primobolan. This would lower the estrogen in the short term with the mast, which would then be phased out, as the primo would kick in after 3 weeks of deployment. That could remain in the stack. This implementation would safely manage your estrogen levels so you could continue. And once all the biomarkers are under control and it's safe to move on, the NPP could come in. Without getting blood work though, you would never feel confident and not have specific steps to take each month. Choosing the correct goodies is critical. That does involve the right combination of ingredients based on what else we're taking. We're looking at health status, individual goals, experience level, and the potential side effect profile of the compound. This is the path of least resistance, because if your prolactin is already high in the mid-range and you decide to hit the nandrolone, it's game over. Knowledge about all the different compounds and what they do can be found if you go to your local doctor. I've covered the ones that I take on my channel so you can get an idea of what they do to your body. It's extremely important for the user to have an idea of how fast they convert testosterone to estrogen, because this will open the door for someone to clearly see the safer compound options and dosages later on. That way, the desired effects are maximized and the risks are minimized. Two guys can have the same blood work initially, and after this administration of the exact same dose, they might have completely different outcomes at the end of the month. It really is crazy how differently everyone can respond to the same thing. The top guys always consider their own individual health markers and then make informed decisions about what compound to select. Safe titration involves the gradual adjustment of dosages. We are assessing tolerance here to always mitigate sides. And just like in the gym, when we want progress, we increase the volume or intensity. Progressive overload does need to happen at a certain point. Start small and build it. Just like the way these massive skyscrapers have been created. You begin with a solid base, then layer by layer, piece by piece, you can form a formidable physique, deliberately adding muscle through steady, persistent dosing. If done right, it really is surprising in what can be achieved in such a short space of time without experiencing many of the common side effects. This is of course versus the next man who is using steroids recklessly. He doesn't have a clear protocol, goes too fast at the start, and a lot of his actions are done through emotion, so he's acting randomly, which is the opposite of what all the top people out there who are running safe cycles are doing. When I first started gear all them years ago, these were the over-the-counter supplements and auxiliary drugs that I used to take. I wasn't too sure of my overall health back then, far from optimal. Now my life on the source is pretty sweet. Complete clarity on what my body needs, and these are the types of things that I'm taking. Yep, things are now looking fully optimized. But is this normal? Definitely not. Do I want to be normal? Never! The human body is massively sped up when on anabolics. And if this high output is not taken into consideration, you start to get deficient. At some point, the system will break down. So it makes sense that we need the right supplements if we're going to be stacking gear. I've actually done a great video that involves lots of different supplements and how they work, so look out for that thumbnail. These are the areas that need to be covered to ensure the body is not being destroyed on the cycle. And depending on the current phase that the individual is on, the supplements, the timings, and the dosages will all be different. Generally, a cutting phase, the food will be low, so the supplements will be high. And as the dosage of anabolics climb higher, so will the range of ancillary drugs like telmisartan, HCG, cabergoline, enalapril, ezetimibe, T4. These things need to be very familiar, and you can't just randomly add some of this stuff in. Using this outlined approach will result in sustainable gains and the prioritization of long-term health. Rome was not built in a day, but mastermind and execute a clever cycle, and an empire of muscle can be built in record time. Now, if you think you need help and guidance on your mission to level up, you can reach out. There's a link below this video in the description. You hit that link and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. The next video coming up is a classic. It does mean a lot to have your support on the channel. I really appreciate it. Front double bicep, I'm out.